Do you have thoughts that repeat in your head over and over and over? Thoughts that are bothersome to you, thoughts that don't make you feel good when you're thinking them. Maybe they make you agitated or sad or upset. This pattern of continually thinking that same thought over and over, it's called rumination. In this video, I'm going to tell you the top 3 reasons that you ruminate, plus I'm going to give you one of my favorite tips to help you stop. Hi, I'm Heather. I'm an anxiety coach, and I personally overcame high functioning anxiety and have had the opportunity to work with hundreds of clients to help them resolve their anxiety, to stop ruminating, and to finally feel better in their everyday lives. So here is reason number 1 about why you ruminate. You have the belief that ruminating will give you insights into your life or to help you solve a problem. This belief is hidden in your subconscious. You don't necessarily know that it's operating, and that's why you ruminate, but this is why you ruminate. This belief structure is a really big one for folks with high functioning anxiety in particular, because people with high functioning anxiety really struggle with perfectionism. So when you see a problem, you want to fix it, right? To make it perfect. When I was struggling with high functioning anxiety, this was absolutely, completely the top reason that I was ruminating. I would say that my rumination was probably out of control. It was a huge barrier in my life. I had something going on in my mind constantly that I was thinking about over and over. And what I would be ruminating about would be one of 2 things. I would be thinking about something that had already happened in my life where I really didn't like the outcome of what had happened. This usually was a conversation that I had had with someone where I felt either misunderstood or felt attacked or judged by that other person. I would replay that conversation over and over in my head. I would be thinking of ways that I could have altered the conversation so that it would have been less problematic to me. Of course, this doesn't make any sense because the conversation already happened, right? It's in the past, but it didn't matter. I would ruminate about it over and over and replay it and think of ways that the conversation could have gone differently. And when I tell you that I ruminated about something that had already happened, I quite often did this for weeks at a time. It's not just I would be thinking about it for a day and it would be bothering me for a day. I would think about it over and over every single day for sometimes weeks at a time. So I want to give you a specific example of what I used to ruminate about. I think it's really useful for me to share my own personal stories with you because I think that anxiety is it's very hidden in a lot of ways, and people don't know what it is like to struggle with anxiety. And we may think that we're ruminating about something that's like a huge issue when it could be something sort of small, right? And this is what happened for me. And so I want to share this story with you. So I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina from Austin, Texas, when I was pregnant with my now oldest daughter. And my my now ex-husband, is the oldest of 4 kids. And so this grandbaby that was coming was the first grandchild, right? So tons of excitement in his family. We moved to Charlotte where his dad and his stepmom live. And it was the first time I was really interacting with them on a regular basis because we had been married for years, but we lived in a different state. So we would only see them, at holidays or on vacations for, finite chunks of time. I wasn't seeing them or interacting with them every day. And I'm very independent. And so interacting with his family, that alone was a huge adjustment for me. And then the fact that I was pregnant with this first grandbaby, there was a lot of things that my now ex-husband's stepmom really wanted to do as a grandmother. And a lot of conversations would happen between the 2 of us where she would, kind of let her feelings be known about what she wanted. And that wasn't necessarily what I wanted. And it was really tough to navigate those conversations because I felt, had these expectations of what she should be allowed to do as a grandparent. And that wasn't what I wanted at all. And so these conversations that she and I had that were really sort of innocuous, they weren't that big of a deal. To me, it was like she was just crowding into me. I just felt like, oh my gosh, I have all of these responsibilities that I'm supposed to live up to about what she wants, even though that's not necessarily something that I want. So I used to replay those conversations that she and I had in my head over and over and over. And this happened for, oh gosh, I would say a year and a half. That's how long it happened, because I remember that my daughter was probably, maybe 1.5 when I finally recognized, wow, you think about these conversations with her all the time. It happened all the time. And I would replay the conversations, as I said, over and over in my head for weeks at a time, thinking about, oh, well, when she said this, I should have said this, and that would have got her to like be quiet. Or when she said this is how I should have responded. It was very unhealthy, right, to be doing this in my head, and it did not make me feel good at all. So that is just one example of something that I used to ruminate about a lot. If I wasn't thinking about something that already happened, I would get caught in a thought loop about something that I was really worried about was going to happen. I had all kinds of worries. I was a huge worrier. I could think about any possible thing that could go wrong, my personal life, with my husband, with my kids, with work. I mean, you name it. I could think of a gazillion potential bad things that might possibly happen. So I would think about that worry. I would think about that concern over and over. I was trying to problem solve in my head, either how not to make that bad thing happen, or if it did happen, how I was going to react or respond that was the best way to potentially fix this hypothetical situation that I was concerned about. So here is reason number 2 why you ruminate. You have a history of emotional or physical trauma, and you might be repeating a thought in your head that has to do with that trauma specifically. And another possibility is that the trauma has made you hypervigilant. So you're on guard, you're trying to protect yourself. So you get stuck in those thought loops where you're essentially reminding yourself to watch out for that potential danger, which could be a specific situation, or it could be a specific person or a type of person. I want to mention something about trauma that is very specific, because I've discovered that many people don't think that they have had trauma in their lives when they actually have. So many people think that trauma is a response to a very terrible event, like an accident or a rape or a natural disaster. Those are examples of what I call big T trauma. Most people don't have big T trauma in their lives. What most people do have in their lives is what I call little T trauma. These are events that happen usually when you're a child or an adolescent that were extremely hurtful or scary to you. But as an adult, when you look back at those events, your perspective is different. When you look back, you don't think that you had any trauma, because you're comparing the things that happened to you to those big T traumas, those things that people define as traumas. And so you think, well, I didn't have any of those happen to me. I haven't had any trauma. But that's using the big T trauma definition. When you were a child or an adolescent, your brain and the way it processed and absorbed information and experiences was completely different than an adult brain. So when you were a kid, that thing that happened was traumatic to you. You just don't think it was now because of your adult perspective. Here's reason number 3 why you ruminate. You're dealing with ongoing stressors that cannot be controlled. This could be a health issue that you have, or a health issue of a loved one that they're really grappling with. Right now, when I am recording this video, we are still in the middle of the pandemic. The Delta variant is spreading everywhere. We're back to masking, all of these sorts of things, right? This ongoing pandemic where there doesn't seem to be an end and we don't know when the end is coming. That's a perfect example of an ongoing stressor that can't be controlled. And there are countless reasons why you may have something going on in your life that you just cannot control. And that stressor is getting you stuck in that thought loop because there is something going on that you just can't control. You feel out of control. The good news out of all of these reasons that I give you, these top 3 reasons, is that it is completely possible for you to be able to shift out of ruminating. I am living proof of that, as are my clients. There are a variety of techniques to help you to stop ruminating. And as I promised, I have one of my favorite techniques that you can try. But I did want you to know that I have another technique to help you stop ruminating. It's in another video that I have already made. So I'm going to put the link to that video down into the comments, and I'm going to pin it so that you can go and watch that video next after you watch this one. So the technique that I want to tell you about today to help you stop ruminating is this concept of questioning your thoughts. So rumination involves you trying to fix a mistake, something that you already did that you wish that you did better. I already mentioned how much I used to do this before I healed my anxiety. So start to question your thoughts. Ask yourself, is this accurate? Is worrying about this thing going to make it any better? Is worrying about this thing going to change the outcome in any way? Is thinking about this over and over actually going to get me anywhere? Is this thought pattern that I am having right now making me happy, or is it just making me feel worse? You may have heard this phrase, don't believe everything you think. So when you start to ask yourself these questions, you're breaking the thought loop, even if it's just for a few seconds, right? You have the thought loop and then you come in with a question, wait a minute, is this accurate? And then you're probably going to go back into the thought loop again and you'll be like, wait a minute, I'm thinking about this thing again. Is it actually making me feel better? So when you break the thought loop, even for just a few seconds at a time, it does help you to stop ruminating because you realize that the thought pattern probably makes very little sense and it actually isn't helping you in any way. If you are ready to finally stop ruminating, to actually addressing the core root cause of your anxiety, I work with individuals in one-on-one coaching, and I also offer group programs. So I'll put the link to those options in the description of the video down below. And thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.